Okay. So here we're going to be explaining Lucifer to the Satanists who don't understand anything about Lucifer and have been conned by the Rothschilds and the royal family into believing that these are the bloodline of Lucifer. Now, we've just gone to one of these dodgy sites. It's supposed to be a black magician, I expect. Looks to me like an imbecile. But here's a stylized image of Lucifer. Lucifer Morning Star. Here's a list of contents. Go back to some other images. Wikipedia, which of course is run by the CIA and is full of disinformation about virtually everything. So unless, like myself, you've read endless books, you wouldn't know anything. Just go on your phone, look on the internet, and get bombarded with endless dross, which is the CIA's way of occluding truth, not by blocking it, but just by dumping endless crap. So it's like finding a needle in a haystack. For example, when I brought out my website psychicwarfare.com, then immediately the CIA got the clutch to do their Psychic Warfare album, to have endless clutch album garbage to knock my website off the top. Now, of course, it's behind a paywall because of the new neo-Stalinist governments in the UK run by the World Economic Forum that have virtually made anything and everything, including the truth, which is characterised as malinformation, that's information the government doesn't like, illegal. So now if you want to look at psychicwarfare.com, you'll have to go behind the paywall. And of course, we've also got the neo-Stalinist UK, the National Security Act, that if you reveal any information that might damage national security, life imprisonment. If you put anything up on the internet they don't like, you're a terrorist, as many of the people talking about Gaza have found out when the British police kicked their door down, took all their instrumentation and arrested them under the Terrorist Act. Luckily, I'm in communist Vietnam, where we've got free speech, not in neo-Stalinist Britain, where it's become the new Bolshevik Union. But anyway, back to you Satanists who are wishing to get all the truth. Why have I got all the truth? Because I'm the world's leading expert on remote sensing, and I can simply remotely sense Lucifer, take out all of his secrets, and know everything there is to know about Lucifer. That's the power of remote sensing. Now, Lucifer is supposed to be a fallen angel. Now, we come to the complete con in that he's a fallen angel and a fall from heaven, cast down to the underworld. Now, this obviously is a con because your Jew God, Elohim, Yahweh, Tetragrammaton, which it's a misnomer to say Muslims worship the same God. They do not. Allah is not the Jew God, Yahweh, Elohim. In fact, Elohim, the Jew God, is chaos, which chaos magicians use for their magic. How do I know that? Because I simply remotely sense Elohim take out all their secrets, then use their secrets to destroy them, which is another story, but which is done. Now, Lucifer was supposed to be an archangel, the archangel of light. So, this archangel exists in the fifth dimension and exerts gravity in the fifth dimension, otherwise there'd be no light. Remember, under primitive 1926 attempts for a grand unified theory, Theodore Kaluza took Einstein's general relativity, which he'd got off his wife, who was actually the true author of general relativity. But of course there was gross misogyny in that time. But anyway, that's another story. He combined gravity and electromagnetism by adding a fifth dimension, and this worked out beautifully in the tensor calculus. And in this primitive theory of physics from 1926, gravity is light in the fifth dimension. I take it to the more advanced, where something in the fifth dimension is curving the five-dimensional Riemann manifold, to put it accurately, and this curvature produces light. Therefore, Lucifer is of the utmost importance to will, because remember we said that curvature in the fifth dimension is caused, a subset of which is will. Hence the Jew God is powerless before free will and can't interfere in its own creation because of free will, which of course is a blatant lie, but don't throw the baby out in the bathwater. Will is the only thing of importance to a sentient being. And Lucifer is the archangel of the will force. Hence Crowley and in his book of Thelema, which is all about will and using will for magic, and his proclamation, do what thou willst. You don't give your will away to anyone, you just use your will for yourself. Now, the story is that the Jew God created all these archangels and angels, and the highest among them was Lucifer, morning star. And he, of course, like all the other archangels and angels, had no free will. And this is a lie, of course, a con, because if he's the archangel of light and will is a subset of something, we won't go into the mathematics because it doesn't exist to physicists. I had to create it from scratch. But anyway, will creates curvature in the five-dimensional Riemann manifold to produce light. Therefore, Lucifer was so upset that the Jew God created man who had free will, that he and a surly band of archangels and angels fought against God, lost, and were cast out. A fall from heaven. See, there is an old Wikipedia CIA site full of garbage. Now, there's something wrong with that. Because if Lucifer and the fallen angels didn't have any free will and were simply Borg, things controlled like the Borg, humans are controlled by Cyber Satan through all of their nanotech and their quantum wave function is being collapsed by AI through the cloud in their phones and the nanotech, so they're simply totally controlled robots with no free will. If we think of angels and archangels as the same thing, because remember, chaos is self-similar, then they couldn't rebel. Why couldn't they rebel, Tim Refat? If you know so much. I do know so much. Well, it's obvious, except if you're Borg, 6 billion of the population, because if they didn't have any free will, they wouldn't have the will to rebel, would they, in the first place? Duh. So, all of you Christians are all going, oh yeah, we believe this, yeah, because you're morons, you're imbeciles. Look at all your preachers in the United States. If you follow things like that, then you deserve everything you get, including your Borgization, which they were all proclaiming you should go for, because it was your civic duty. How you got your Borg infestation by many routes, some of which aren't YouTube friendly. Now, continuing, this means that the whole legend of the fall doesn't stand up to even cursory investigation, because if the archangels and angels had no free will, and this was so, they could never have rebelled against the Jew God, lost and be cast out by Michael, the archangel with the big sword, and the heavenly host of the Jew God. And of course, Lucifer and his followers would not have been jealous, because they wouldn't have had the will to be jealous of man and what the Jew God had given man. So, all of Christianity is palpably wrong, pseudo-garbage, and a con. But what in Christianity is the prime tenet? Oh, give your free will to the Jew God, which is the only thing of value to the Jew God, which isn't actually God, but in fact is chaos. Now, if we then take the position that the Jew God is chaos, a chaotic being, then I can explain perfectly what happened with Lucifer and his fallen angels. So, the Jew God and what Christians worship is in fact chaos, and doesn't even pass the first test of truth, rationality, because nothing with no free will can rebel against the Jew God. But if the Jew God is chaos, then I will explain Lucifer, man, and their function in a chaotic universe. Now, shamans can actually see the underlying energetic nature of the universe, which they say is totally predatory. And they summated this in the rule of the Nagel. The Nagel is a 4-lobed human that can interact with the full vector of electromagnetism, and therefore is the only being on the planet that has free will, because free will comes from the fifth dimension, and light. Light is a full vector, so you need 4 lobes to channel the light. All of the other members of the species depend upon the Nagwal versions of their species to link them to the light. And without the Nagwal, when they die, since there are only 2 lobes and matrix, they return to the chaos from which they were made. So the Nagwal is the only way out of the matrix, which they are. And as we see, you can add Higgs field to matrix to make it real. And the mediator of all this are the Nagwal members of the species. So, we look at this. The power that governs the destiny of all living beings is called the eagle. This would be your Jew God. Not because it is an eagle or has anything to do with an eagle, but because it appears to the seer as an immeasurable jet black eagle. Jet black. That means if it has any existence in the fifth dimension, it doesn't produce light, therefore has no will. So the Jew God has no will. Standing erect as an eagle stands, its height reaching to infinity. As the seer gazes on the blackness that the eagle is, 4 blazes of light reveal what the eagle is like. 4 blazes of light, the full vector of electromagnetism. And the only beings that can channel this light are Nagwals. We've got 4 lobes to channel the 4 vectors, one of which houses the assemblage point. So they also control the reality of the species. The first blaze, which is like a bolt of lightning, helps the seer make out the contours of the eagle's body, perception. There are patches of whiteness that look like an eagle's feather and talons. The second blaze of light reveals the flapping, wind-created blackness that looks like the eagle's wings. And of course, when you go into the second intention, which is interdimensional reality, it's always preceded by wind-like phenomena. Hence, Stairway to Heaven, and the bit about the wind. With the third blaze of lightning, the seer beholds a piercing inhuman eye. Oh, rather like the eye of Sauron, that. And of course, the eyes are spherical, which of course links up with a 3-sphere eye and consciousness. And the fourth and last blaze discloses what the eagle is doing. That would be the one along which the assemblage point is locked and the reality of the being is locked. So if you control the assemblage points of a being, which in fact houses the Higgs field and makes the matrix entities real, you control their reality and what reality they are in. So control over the assemblage point, or the point of attention, or the Higgs field agglomeration, or the complex number Higgs boson, full vector, if you're going all down my physics route, controls the reality totally of the being. The eagle is devouring the awareness of all creatures that, alive on earth, a moment before and now dead, have floated to the eagle's being. Why? Because it controls, upon their death, the pathway of their assemblage point, the reality, it locks them into it. So, it's vital that you make sure that your assemblage point never gets into the eagle's abattoir reality. This is what it is. Like a ceaseless swarm of fireflies, they've got light. They've got will. So this will-less, chaotic filth, the Jew god, or the eagle in shamanistic parlance, or a strange attractor in non-linear dynamics chaos theory, is feeding on the stolen will force of living beings, and depends upon the stolen will force of living beings to gain will. Think of it like a golem, the Jew occult thing made from clay that has the parchment with all the names stuck into it to gain life. Remember, in the Jew Bible, all made from earth, dirt. What vivifies them? The will force. So, to meet their owner. Why is the eagle their owner? Because they've given their will to the Jew God. How many Christians give their will to their God, get baptized, go to church, and dedicate their souls, their spirits, their lives to the Jew God? So, of course, it's their owner, because of their own free will. It owns their soul. Their soul, of course, is split open at the time of death, and their free will eaten. The eagle disentangles these tiny flames, the will force, lays them flat, matrixizes them, so it's taking the stuff out and made the matrix real, and then consumes the bit that made the matrix real. Because this is the strange attractor, the Jew god, the eagle's food. My God, I'm a hyper genius. No, it's just simply being the world's leading expert on remote sensing. There isn't anything I don't know. Because whoever knows it, I can simply mind read them, strip their mind's consciousness dry, and learn exactly what they know. Isn't that a good superpower? The eagle, that power that governs the destinies of all living things, reflects equally and at once all those living things. There is no way, therefore, for man to pray to the eagle. So all of you Christians, you are foobarred to ask favours, to hope for grace. The human part of the eagle is too insignificant to move the whole. As you can guess from my observations, I'm not a Christian. It is only from the eagle's actions that a seer can tell what it wants. The eagle, although it's not moved by the circumstances of any living thing, has granted a gift to each of those beings. Has to. If they don't have free will, they're no use to the eagle. They have to give this thing their free will of their own free will. Otherwise, it's of no use to the eagle. In its own way and right, any one of them, if it so desires, has the power to keep the flame of awareness, the power to disobey the suns, to die and be consumed. Yes, of course. I'm keeping my own free will. I'm going to Crowley. Do what thou wouldst, above all things. Aleister Crowley had it absolutely right. I'm having no Jew god, chaotic being, strange attractor use me for food. No, if anything, I'm going to use that thing for food. Well, how can you do that? I'm the world's leading remote sensor. I can mind dream the eagle, see all of its weaknesses, and then do it in. Power remote sensing. Well, you're insignificant compared to the eagle, the Jew God, the Elohim, whatever you want to call them, Yahweh, Tetragrammaton, Adonai, Sabaoth, Jehovah. Well, it might be insignificant, but haven't you heard of getting an all-powerful enemy to destroy itself of its own free will? Because this thing hasn't got any free will. So if you plant within this thing a will virus, hack the will of the Elohim, it's got no free will. It depends upon living things for its will. If you poison the will of some humans, to get the Elohim to omega helize itself, and of course these things get possessed by the Elohim, and of course are going to die, because chaos is self-similar. If you do it on one level, it's done to all levels of chaos. It's non-linear dynamics. Chaos is self-similar. Therefore, chaos is totally and utterly vulnerable to hacking, worm technology, and viruses, which is standard quantum computing and lesser levels of computing. Now, to continue. So desires the power to keep the flame of awareness, the power to dissipate summons, to die and be consumed. Every living thing has been granted the power. I want some of that, don't you? If it so desires to seek an opening to freedom and to go through it. It is evident to the seer who sees the opening and the creatures that go through it, that the eagle has granted that gift in order to perpetuate awareness. Well, no, it's because it needs free will, so if there's no free will, it can't have any will, it can't be this strange attractor, so it must give free will and just con everything with free will to give its free will to the Jew God, to the divine, to the eagle, to the strange attractor. Giving my soul to the Lord. See? Dedicating my life to God. The big con. For the purpose of guiding living things to that opening, the eagle created a nagwal, which is yours truly. I made sure, using my ability to collapse the quantum wave function from the future, that no other male nagwal exists on the planet. They've all been extinguished, never born. Bye-bye. MFs. I'm the only one. Why? Because I'm worth it, and I love to use L'Oreal. It's not an advert, it's just a statement of fact, YouTube. The nagwal is double being to whom the rule has been revealed, whether it be in the form of a human being, an animal, a plant, or anything else that lives. The nagwal, by virtue of its doubleness, is drawn to seek that hidden passageway. It's drawn to seek the light, the fifth dimension, the five-dimensional Riemann manifold, which is what the nagwal is the mediator and can pass into. The nagwal comes in pairs, male and female. Well, there are some nagwal females as well. Well, a couple of them at least. A double man and a double woman become the nagwal only after the rule has been told to each of them, and each of them has it understood and accepted in full. Well, since the two nagwal women follow my work religiously, it's been revealed to them. To the eye of the seer, a nagwal man or nagwal woman appears as a luminous egg with four compartments to link up to the four vector. Unlike the average human being who has two sides only, a left and a right. The navel has a left side divided into two long sections and a right side equally divided in two. Through this little section, the eagle created the first nagal man and nagal woman as seers and immediately put them in the world to see. It provided them with 4 female warriors who were stalkers, 3 male warriors and 1 male courier whom they were to nourish, enhance and lead to freedom. So, we'll explain that, but at the moment we're on Lucifer. So, if the Jew God is chaos, which it is an isolated system, and in mathematics all isolated systems have a hidden part of them they cannot see. And therefore, when the Jew God said that his angels and archangels had no free will, the Jew God couldn't see that some of the archangels and angels had free will, the ability to warp the 5th dimension, produce light led by the angel that had that power. So, by definition, Lucifer always had free will and was that hidden part within the Jew God couldn't see, and therefore Lucifer and his followers could rebel against the Jew God because the Jew God couldn't see the rebellion till it had begun. And of course, Lucifer rebelled against man because man was created to give free will, this will force, to the Jew God, which then of course would be eating Lucifer alive because he's of the will, and within chaos, the more the Jew God eats humans to gain will, the more Lucifer is eaten by this process and loses will force and power. And when all of man of their own free will have given up their will, Lucifer is consumed by the Jew God, and the hidden part of chaos within the Jew God, the strange attractor, the eagle, has been consumed by the process of creating man, conning them into giving their free will to the Jew God, and finding the hidden part within chaos that chaos couldn't control, which of course was the purpose of man. The Neos, who give the architect, the Jew God, the ability to find the hidden part and defeat the agent Smith, the Lucifer, and produce a perfect universe where the Jew God is in total control.